Hello, Rick. Can you
Hello,
hear me?
Rick. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay, perfect, perfectly. So
Perfectly.
let
So let
me
me uh,
bring you to the
bring you to
video.
the video.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Prof.
Hey, Prof. How are you
How are
doing?
you?
How are you? I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good, good, good.
Good, good,
Good
good,
to
good,
see
good,
you.
good to see you. I'm happy. I'm happy to see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly well.
But I can't
But
hear
I
you at
can't
this
hear you
moment.
at this
I'm
moment.
not sure
You can hear me?
what's
Can you hear me?
happening. It
It
was
was
working
working
initially, but now
initially, but now. Can you hear me
I
now?
think
I think
something went
something
wrong.
went wrong.
Let me see
Let
if
me see
I can bring you
if I
back
can bring
on.
you back on.
Let's try this and see.
Can you
Yes,
hear
can you
me?
hear me
Yes, can
now?
you hear me now? Yeah, I can hear you.
But I can't
But I
hear.
can't hear.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
not
Let me
sure. Let me
see
see
what is
what is
happening.
happening. I can hear you perfectly well.
Let me try
Let
this
me try this
again.
again. Okay.
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 So, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello. Hello.
Something is. Let me see. With the audio,
Can
there's
you hear
something.
me? There's something.
Let me try
Can you try
again.
again? Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, hello. Yeah,
I'm
can you hear
just
me? I'm
fixing the
just. Okay.
something wrong with the
Something
audio.
is wrong with the audio.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Now I cannot hear
Now
you.
I.
It's strange. Let me see.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I'm not sure what's happening.
Not sure.
I don't know what's happening, but
I don't
I
know what's
cannot
happening,
hear
but I
you.
cannot hear you.
So I
So
would
I would
try and
try
use
and
the
use the
default
default
audio.
audio.
Can you hear me? Hi, Rick.
Hey,
Perfect. Now I can hear
perfect.
you.
Now I can hear you. Yes, yes. That's good.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Good to see you. How are you? How's your weekend?
It's going great. I guess I had just had a seminar and
Ah,
it's competition now. So I'm just coming from that seminar and I couldn't wait for this interview to start.
same here.
Same, same here.
I'm really
I'm
excited
really
to be
excited
honest.
to be
I'm
honest.
really
Yeah, I am.
excited.
Really excited.
Yeah. So viewers,
So
welcome to
viewers, welcome to
today's.
today's.
There's some
There's
echo.
some
Are you
echo.
using
Are you using
your
your
phone speaker?
phone
Because
speaker?
I hear
No,
echo.
I hear echo. Okay, I'm
Do you
using
have
my
earpiece?
earpiece. Yes, let me see. If I can get.
Okay. I
Okay,
think that
I
can
think
help
that
because
can
there's
help.
a
But
feedback.
they said feedback.
So whilst
So
my
while
guest is
my guest is
sorting the
sorting
audio,
the
I'd
audio,
like to
I
welcome
like
you
to
all
welcome you all
to People Who
to people
Inspire.
who inspire.
And today is going to be
Today is going to be
exciting.
exciting.
I'm really looking forward to the
The
conversation I'm going
conversation
to
I'm going to have
have with my friend, my
my friend,
brother,
my brother,
Rick.
Ray.
And
And
hopefully some of you watching us would learn a thing or two and would draw some inspiration from the conversation that we are going to have. Still a bit of feedback there.
You get a feedback still?
I think it's yes, it's still there, but let me see if
you still
okay, we have to manage. We have to manage like that for the meantime.
Okay.
So welcome to People Who Inspire, Rick.
Thank you very much, Prince. I'm happy to see you.
Good. And to start the conversation, really, I think when I shared your story, a lot of people were asking, so who is this young guy who is a lecturer and also an entrepreneur, and he's going to talk about passion and all that. Can you tell my viewers where it all started? Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And just walk us through that bit of your early childhood.
Yeah, so my name is Rick Bafo Ochre, Richard Bafo Ochre, and I was born in the central part of Ghana, precisely Saltpond, the traditional or the historical town of Saltpond. At 8 years old, unfortunately, I lost my mom, who was a very close friend of mine. And when my mom left, I didn't stay with my dad. I was always staying with my mom. So when my mom passed, I had to take a very concrete decision as to what I wanted to do with my life. Interestingly, at 10 years old. So at 10 years old, I was pushed to make decisions for myself. And I had to really make a decision to move from my little town into the biggest town in Ghana, Accra. So at 10 years, I came over to Accra to stay with my aunties and to start life in Accra. So I just grew up like nine years in Saltpond, and the rest of my life was spent in Accra. I schooled in Accra, started schooling in Accra. I started schooling in what we call Saito. I don't know if you've heard of, you know Saito, right?
Saito, yes, of course.
So I went to Saito. I started school in a Saito, and that was where they used tree to teach English, right? So I didn't really. I had a lot of issues growing up. I couldn't speak English. The school was new to me. I met new school children who were new to me, and I really had to adjust at a very fast pace. And it was tough at the beginning because when I go to school, I couldn't match up with the other kids because I couldn't even express myself in the English language, let alone make a friend, right? But
wow.
I had a challenging task ahead. I moved from the Saito school, and then I went to a more challenging school. I went to Datus Complex. Have you heard of Datus Complex?
So those of you watching, Saito is a term used for these government institutions or government schools that are usually less endowed. So yes, I know that's where stylish went.
Yeah, so I moved to Datus Complex, and when I went to Datus is an international school. It's a sort of an upgrade of the Saito. Yes, and all the children spoke English. I had to pass an entrance exams, and I had to get 50% minimum to be able to go to class 5 or stage 5. And guess what? I passed with 50%.
On the dot.
Right on the border.
Wow.
Right. And
so even after class 5, I mean, like you said, because of where you schooled earlier, as a class 5, even the English language and expressing yourself was wow.
Yes. Yes. You know, I never stayed with my mom. I never stayed with my dad. I mean, my mom passed on earlier, and the site I started, children didn't speak English. They spoke Twi, they spoke Fanti, they spoke all the local languages. So
wow.
At 10 years old, 11 years old, I had my auntie's daughter, who was then 5 years old, teach me how to read. Right? So she taught me how to read, how to read a book, how to speak. And I always come back home depressed because the children would laugh at me, right? And I couldn't speak with them. Then they would laugh at me. During break time, I would find a place to go and hide because I couldn't say a word. And how I passed the English was a miracle. And there's an interesting story which I recounted in this book. Now, when I went to class 5 and we were 32 in class, I still remember it like yesterday. I still remember my teacher's name, Mr. Opari, my class 5 teacher. We were 32 in class. Guess what? The first term that I was in class, when the exams was done, I think we were 35. I was 32nd out of 35 students.
Whoa. Wow.
Which meant that I had only beaten 2 students in my class.
Exactly. Wow.
And I was like, these kids were laughing at me. So if I could beat just 2, if I could beat at least 2 people in this class, which means I can do much more, right? So exactly. I put myself to work. I engrossed myself in my assignment. I did everything to develop myself. I would say that I was personally motivated to succeed, right? How many children they would have to beg for them to come and eat their lunch or their supper because they wouldn't leave their homework, right? They wouldn't leave their homework to come and eat. That was the kind of kid I was back then because I couldn't handle people laughing at me because I couldn't speak English. So I put myself to work to make sure that I will succeed at whatever I was doing. So do you know what happened the second term, right? Just track it.
I'm interested to know.
The first term, I was 32nd out of 35 people. And the second term, I jumped from the 32nd position to the 18th position in class.
Wow.
From 32nd to 18th in just the same year in 2 terms. So what that told me was that it's possible, given the environment you find yourself in, it's possible to succeed. So when I got to the 18th position, I was like, if I've gotten to the 18th position, guess what? I can climb further. So I kept pushing, and the third term, guess what? I wasn't first. I jumped from the 18th position to the 6th position in class.
Whoa. That's a huge.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. So that was from my primary school. So from the 6th, I went to third, come back to 5th, and I was rolling with the gurus in the class now.
The top guys.
Yes. Given the right environment. Given the right. So which meant that I wasn't dumb. I just didn't have the right soil to grow in. And so when I was picked from that thorny ground and I was transplanted into a good soil, I just started growing and nobody could stop me.
That's a big lesson. That's a big lesson. The environment that you find yourself in helps to really bring the best out of you.
Exactly.
So from that, I mean, it's fascinating. From that point, you went to SHS,
Yes.
and then from there, what happened to the
Yes. So,
university or?
yes. So every stage of my educational ladder, the educational ladder comes with a story, right? So in essence, I have another story which I recount in this book, right?
Yes, we'll come to definitely this book.
So in essence, remember I told you I couldn't speak the English language, right?
Yes.
I fell in love with languages afterwards.
No, it's amazing because, and this is the reason why I was asking, like, what happened next, because given the background you just shared with us, that you are struggling to even speak the English language, and knowing who you are now, that's why I wanted you to take us through how the love for languages came into being.
Yes. I was challenged because the children laughed at me, and I wanted to prove myself wrong, outright, that I wasn't dumb, that I was good, given the same opportunity that they had when they were growing up. If I was given the same opportunity as they had, I would do much better. So when I got opportunity, even though I got opportunity quite late as compared to them, I started growing past them, right? So what happened? I fell in love with languages. I got introduced to the French language the first time in David Complex, right? So
Wow.
I started learning it, and something happened. We were preparing for BEC, and we were doing a mock. And the French mock that we did, guess what? I came out of close to 50 students in the class. I came second in that French class.
Wow.
And the class couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe it that I came second, because we were gurus there, right? We were gurus there. But I, on the other hand, proved everybody wrong and came second. The only person that beats me in that French class is Delali Piers Poha. I don't know if he's listening. Delali beat me in that mock. But my friends did not believe that I did it and that I succeeded on my own. So I told them, listen, I'm going to do well at a BEC. I'm going to get 1 so that it will prove everybody wrong, right? And guess what? It happened. I got 1 in French. All right.
Wow.
So that was what gave me the impetus, right, to go after this new language that I've discovered. All right. It was like an adventure for me, right? So going to the university, I had one going to the SS, right? I had one goal in mind: pursue this language and also master it. All right. So I wanted to go to one of the best schools around. I wanted to go to Infantry Pima. I wanted to go to the boys' school. I wanted to actually go to a boys' school. But the boys' school did not want to give me what I wanted to study, right? My friends. So I had to wait a little at home to get what I wanted to study. So I finally went to a mixed school, a school that I love, Ghana National College, Ghana Paul.
Wow.
All the nananoms out there.
Shout out.
I went to Osajibo's own school, right? So we have a history of our own, and it's an amazing history. So I love Ghana National to bit. And but interestingly, when I got to my French class, the class was full, right? But when I went, I said, "Where is the French class? Where is it? Where is it?" And they showed me. I said, "Okay." I just went straight to that class. I didn't care what I was for. I didn't care about what anybody said. I just went in to sit in that class, right? So the headmistress just heard that a student did not want to move to any other class than the French class. So she walked from her office to come and find who that young boy was. I was 13 years old. So she came to class and then she said, no, everybody was in his prescribed uniform. Everybody was in his prescribed uniform. and I was the only one in white. That showed that I didn't belong there. I was a new student, right? So the headmistress comes in and then said, "Boy, what are you doing in this class? The class is full." And she said, "Come on, you need to get out of this class and find yourself another class to be in." This woman was an imposing woman with a very deep voice. And she came and said, "Hey, get out of this class." And I got up as a 13-year-old and I said, "Madam, I came here for one purpose. I came here to study this language and to master it." She said, "Listen, you either have to decide to leave this class and go to another class, or you get out of the school."
Wow.
And she instructed the class prefect, Richard Drecker, to get me out of that class, or Richard Drecker will go out of that class, right? So either it is me or Richard Drecker who goes. Richard Drecker was the class prefect, right? Wow. So finally, I had no choice. I had to move from the class. I was disappointed. I cried. I sat in the next class, which was an economics class, which was a history class, and tried to adjust myself to my new environment. But my mind was in the French class, right?
In the French class, yeah.
And I sat, I had my history lessons. I did economics for for the period. Then before the day could end, before the class could end, the headmistress entered this new class that I was in. And something strange happened. She said, "The boy who wanted to do French is he in this class?" With a very big voice. "The boy who wanted to do French, is he in this class?" I sat down quiet. I thought I wasn't the only victim, so I looked back to see if there was another victim in the class.
Okay.
And nobody stood up. Nobody stood up. So I guess it was me. So I sheepishly stood up, not knowing what she was up to, what she was going to say. And the judgment was passed. She said, "You can go back to your class." What changed? What happened? Right? So this woman changed my destiny.
Exactly. Because I mean, and viewers, if you're watching, will come to what Rick is doing currently, and you understand why that decision the headmistress made really has defined Rick's career path and destiny. That was huge.
Yeah. So as of today, I don't know what prompted the woman after how she treated me in the first class. What went on? I think it was divine, because God told that woman that, "Hey, go back there and go and change that guy's destiny, because you will never rest if you allow that guy to be in that class." So this woman is an imposing woman. She was a headmistress. She had authority to tell you which class to belong to. And after having dealt with me that way, there was no way for her to come back. But she could. And that's why I believe it was divine. So, cutting a long story short, I went back to the class, and as they say, the rest was history.
The rest is history. So my guest today, if you're watching, is Rick D. Autry. I call him Prof. On a normal day, I call him Prof. And you understand later why I call him Prof. And so he's sharing really his journey. So now you started French, you're doing French in Ghana National. And can you share with us your transition from Ghana National College to KNUST? And if you can also let us understand, for example, what role your passion for the language played in your stay in KNUST?
Yeah. So from Ghana National, I had an auntie who convinced me to write a receipt, to write the NOPDEC, right? So after I had written my SSC, she sponsored me to also write again, all right? So, and it was also divine, because what she encouraged me to write was what took me to the university.
What took
right?
you? God has been in your corner.
Yes, so I thank her so much, Auntie Penny. And so I went to the university having worked before going. I worked in a pharmacy shop and to learn to save my pocket money and all that. I never thought I would make it to the university, because at that time the university admission was very competitive, very competitive. I went K University, it was very competitive, and but God being so good, I was able to get in, and I got my friend. Yes, yeah. And when I got there, it was a different ballgame altogether. I thought I was a shark. I thought I was a big man, yeah? When I went there, I had classmates who could qualify as my father. I had classmates who was old, over twice that of my age, right? You know, because at that time, tech had to box together people with A level, people with O level, and we boxed all of us together. So those of us who were coming from SS were very young, 19. I entered university at 19. So all of those of us who were coming from SS were very young. But we had people. Can you believe I had my friend teacher in JSS with me in the same class?
What? Wow.
That would tell you that the class I was in was a tough one. And in fact, I wanted to quit, because these people that I was in class with were people who were teachers. In fact, they were teachers. They taught me. One of them taught me in French, and
I
now
mean, if they taught you French in JSS, and you're not sitting in the same class to compete with them.
Exactly. But so I was scared, and they all spoke French, and the French I was speaking was not up the university type of French, you know. So I told myself that, hey, this is what you wanted to master this language, right? Right? You remember you wanted to master this language? I said, yeah, I wanted to. But the competition was fierce. But that notwithstanding, I changed my mindset. What changed was my mindset. That I could become what I would want to become if I change this mindset, and not, rather than competing with people, I should rather compete with myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah. So what I did was that I told myself, how can I get better competing with myself, right? There's an amazing thing that happened in the university rank, right? The university grades, you either increase, you drop, or you maintain, right? So at the end of every academic year, you won't go and check the board to see, all right, whether you have increased your average, or you have maintained, or you have dropped. I want to say, to the glory of God, that when I started my first year to when I ended my final year, I never dropped in my average.
Wow.
I never maintained my average. It was always shooting up. It was always going up. It was always going up. Because what I was competing not against anybody, I was competing with myself. And trust me, I had a very good class also. Right? So I was competing with myself. And one day, one very good student kept asking me, but how do you do it? People go and check your average, and you don't maintain, you don't drop. You are always, if it's not 0.1, it's 0.2. If it's not 0.2, it's 0.3. If it's not 0.2, you are always increasing, right? Because I always wanted to get better. I always wanted to improve. I always want to challenge us. I always wanted to challenge myself to get better, to have a better version of myself. And that was what kept me improving every semester. In fact, the final semester, semester 8, that everybody thought that, hey, it is not possible to increase in semester 8.
Yeah, usually the last semester.
The last semester, you cannot increase.
Yeah.
Right? It's tough because multiplied by all the 8 semesters, blah, blah. It is impossible practically to increase. But I did. By 0.1. And so for me, I always say that even though I didn't get a first class, I got a second upper. I always say that if we had another year, I'll keep going until I get
going up. Exactly.
So that was
an amazing testimony. Now, for me, what is very crucial at this juncture where you're in KNUST and everything. Now, at what point did you engage in your entrepreneurship activities in KNUST? I mean, at what point did you say, look, I want to add on top of the French I'm studying, I want to do other ventures to create multiple streams of income, for example? Because I'm interested because your profile really, and because I also know that you did a lot of entrepreneurial adventures back in KNUST. Exactly.
Yeah. So what happened was that when I finished school, I had opportunity to be a teaching assistant, at KNUST. And when the teaching assistantship was about ending, I had to decide what I wanted to do with my life, right? But before KNUST, before I completed, I was engaged in little sales jobs here and there, selling everything I could sell to survive. And so I had to decide what I wanted to do with my life. And after having taken some time to consult the Almighty God, and I came to a conclusion that there are 2 things I was good at: communication and entrepreneurship. Starting something from scratch and then making it valuable for others. So I took a decision that whatever I'm going to do with my life, it has to either be educating somebody or providing or creating products and services people can use. So my life is all about these two things. I'm either educating or somebody else is using my product or service. And so one time I saw a poster on KNUST campus that a seminar conference was going to happen in a particular hotel. I didn't have the money to go, but what I did was I saved my money and I pushed all the money. The money they were charging was huge then. I pushed all the money into that conference and I won. Interestingly, that's where I met you, right?
Yeah.
For the first time. And I asked you, how did you manage to get here? Because and you told me how you sold your fridge, right?
Yeah.
How you sold your fridge to get to the conference, right? So we paid a lot of sacrifices to make. So what happened? What happened was that after meeting you, we obviously under the conference we're supposed to come up, create something innovative that sells, all right? And you happen to be with my team, and we brainstormed together, and we had to go and pitch, right?
Yeah.
And that video, that photo, that photo that I saw gives me a lot of nostalgia. It brings a lot of memories back, and that shows how far we have struggled to be here. And so we pitched, and eventually we won that competition. And when we won that competition, I remember telling you that this is not just a competition. This must not just end here. You must take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So I remember speaking with you and you saying, "Hey, we can't let this die. Let's move it on." And then together, you and I decided to push this to the next level. All right. So we came back to campus, and we started to do recruiting. We started sharing the African dream, the Dream Africa. Our first name was Dream Africa.
Exactly.
We started actually talking to people about the vision. We wanted to create a theme park in Kumasi. And this was very significant, right? Because these are a group of people that didn't have money, were students, and then we wanted to create a team back and call it the Dream Africa, right? It was huge, it was big. But what I do remember was that at the age, I think you were 22, I was 23, 24, we started interviewing people. We started interviewing people. We interviewed some of the finest brains Ghana could ever produce.
The dream team.
Yes, the dream team. I'm amazed what they are doing currently all over the world. I'm amazed what the dream team that we grew some years back are doing all over the world today. But you know, what happened was that starting Evolve Africa pushed us on the entrepreneurial journey, the two of us, you and I. We pushed us on the entrepreneurial journey. Why? Because we said, okay, we wanted to send our vision to a larger group of people. So what must we do to push the vision to a larger group of people? We said we have to organize a conference, right? Right? And we said, we didn't have money to organize a conference. So what do we do? Right? I remember we had to convert architects into salesmen. We had to convert medical students into salesmen. But it takes somebody with a unique set of skills to convert an architect who is very conservative, who has never sold anything, right? To become a salesperson to be able to sell. And I remember that they said, okay, this is our first conference. Why not we start in a small corner? I mean, just get a corridor and do the conference there. And I said, no, we are going to rent the Law Auditorium of Kane University, one of the largest auditoriums ever on Kane University campus. But we didn't have money.
I remember
yes. What Prince and I did was that we did something very crazy. I'm not advising you to do it. But you know, when you have a lot of passion and your passion is directly linked to your purpose, you can do crazy things that most people cannot fathom. So what we did was that we decided to put in our hostel fees. And then we decided to get the dream team pushed in their hostel fees. And then what we did was that we needed first to secure the venue. So once we had pushed money to secure the venue, friends, you don't know what we went in. It meant that we either had to steal the auditorium or get sacked from school.
From school, exactly. I remember.
That was huge.
I remember.
It was one of the greatest things I've done to date. The scariest thing that I've done to date. Right? Telling people to put in their hotel fee, put in your own hotel fee, patching with friends, because we wanted to be able to do the conference, get the money back, give the money to the
and then pay exactly.
Pay their hotel. I remember 1 year we sold a ticket for 12 cities. 12 cities. Now, tell you what, selling a ticket at 12 cities today is still expensive. Right? For the average student. What I'm talking about is like almost 10 years.
Yes. It was in 2009.
2008, 2009.
2009, yeah, 2009.
Yes, almost 9-10 years. And we sold tickets at 12 cities. I remember that we lobbied to get a restaurant to serve us without paying the restaurant.
Yes.
We were going to pay after the conference. So listen, we had to become entrepreneurs.
You have to negotiate.
We had to negotiate everything. We had to negotiate for chairs. Remember,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon's chairs. We had to negotiate for chairs.
Yes. So outside, we created canopies because they did not allow us to eat in the auditorium. So we had to think outside the box and then get tents and chairs and tables outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we had to negotiate. We didn't pay for it yet. We had to negotiate, right? We had to negotiate the venue. We had to negotiate for the food and everything. So what this meant was that we either sell or we get kicked out of the university. Because all these things we were doing wasn't going. So what we did was that we went from room to room getting people to YEF. And trust you me, YEF was a success. We managed to pay the debt. We couldn't pay I couldn't pay myself, we couldn't pay, but we managed to
for our people. Yes.
For our people. And that taught me a very fundamental lesson.
Yeah.
You have to think outside the box all the time. You have to learn how to negotiate. So at a very young age, when we taught ourselves how to negotiate, we taught ourselves how to surround ourselves with the greatest, the best people on KNUST campus. We taught ourselves how to share vision and mission and make people embrace it. And these fundamental principles have been a part of our lives to now. Now, starting Gulf Africa opened doors for us. Do you remember, Prince, when we were invited by the late Ifo Kujuma to Accra?
I do.
Right? So, after organizing YEF, our first ever conference, we had the opportunity to invite Ifo Kujuma, the late Ifo Kujuma. And the conference, remember, was to help catapult our vision, to share our vision to a larger group of people.
Yes.
So what happened was that Ifo Kujuma, the late Ifo Kujuma was in that audience.
Yes.
And as I was sharing the vision of North Africa and what we wanted to do, friends, I still have that picture with me, where Ifo Kujuma, the late Ifo Kujuma was there, and we were surrounded. I mean, we were sitting around him, and he shared his vision. And he said, guys, this is what I've always wanted to do. And I see that you guys can achieve that. Do you remember the Anansi village?
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah. So what happened was that Ifo told us that Ifo invited us to, the late Ifo Kujuma invited us to Accra.
Accra, I remember.
And we went to Accra, and we had to go to his office. We went to Accra in a t-shirt and jeans, young guys, So we went, and then we went to the reception, said, we are here to see the late Ifo Kujuma. And then the receptionist was like, 2 young guys, what are you coming to see the CEO of the National Theatre for? And so we were meant to wait at the launch. We waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. 30 minutes we were still waiting. What the receptionist didn't know was that the late Ifo Kujuma had blocked his meetings for the period and was waiting for us.
Exactly.
That's what the receptionist. So the receptionist thought that we are insignificant and that we are just there to. So she made us wait. So what happened? That Ifo Kujuma was coming out of his office to ask the lady if any group of people have come here to look for him, and then she said, "Oh, there are these 2 young boys." These are the people I'm waiting for.
Exactly, I remember.
I've been sitting here all this time waiting for these 2 young people. They are the reason why I'm here. I remember the lady was so disappointed, and she was like, "I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir." So we finally ended up in the late Ifo Kujuma's office, and he shared his vision with us. And I was amazed. Who were we sitting before this great man? And you know what happened next? he drove us in his Honda, the newest Honda.
I remember. With
Right?
a full AC.
With a full AC, right? But what thing I remember about the late Efo Kojo Magbe was that he described us as friends. He said, somebody came in and said, "These are my friends, and they are my partners." And anybody that he said that to was shocked. Remember that when he drove us to meet Professor
Kwame Ado.
Yes. Now, something interesting happened. Now, those of you who do not know Professor Kwame Ado, he's the one who created or designed the Colombian peso, the Colombian currency. He has designed some iconic buildings in the world. He's renowned architect. Yes.
And one of the Mercedes as well.
Exactly. So, the late Efo Kojo Magbe drove us to meet this man in a convoy, right? So when we went, the Professor Kwame Ado was showing a slide presentation to ministers of states. Right? That was the time I met some ministers of states that I could only see on TV.
Visitano and all those.
Visitano, the late PV Obeng, and all the big men out there. Now, when we got there, they had just finished showing, Professor Kwame Ado had just finished showing to them what he was presenting, and we're leaving. And guess what? Something amazing happened. This same presentation that was given to the ministers of state was going to be given to 2 young boys. So they invited us to the room. And then
I remember.
Professor Kwame Ado was supposed to give us the presentation. As the presentation was about to start, the late PV Obeng, who happens to be the chairman of the KNUST Council, walked in. And when he walked in and greeted Professor Kwame Ado, the late Efo Kojo Magbe, and Efo Kojo Magbe introduced us to the late PV Obeng as his friends. And so, wow, listen, these are great men. So if these great men introduce you as their friends, you must be great too, right?
Yes. That was a very. I remember it was a very pivotal moment in our lives, and the vision that we had, and I think it was an attestation to the vision that we're carrying. Really, we're going somewhere.
Yeah. So that presentation was given to us, and it opened doors. You asked the question about passion and purpose.
Yes.
Do you remember
I was coming to that. Like, really, if you can speak on that.
Yeah. So I'm a lecturer, so I would like to define things with practical examples.
Please, exactly, because right now what my viewers will be thinking is, okay, so we have a topic about passion and purpose. So if you can give us the definition and what are the linkages that brings passion and purpose together to achieve, right? So that would be helpful.
Yeah. So I would like to let the audience know that there is a science behind passion. There's something I call the science of passion, right? Passion is not an art, it's a science, right? So your passion, all right, is directly linked to your purpose. If you have a bigger purpose, you have a bigger passion. If you have a smaller purpose, it affects your passion. That is why if you discover purpose, right? If you discover purpose, you naturally become passionate about what you have discovered. Have you ever wondered why 3 people start a project? 3 people decide to start a project. 1 doesn't start at all. The other starts and ends in the middle, and only 1 person finishes the project. Have you wondered why? It is a science behind passion. And unless you know the science behind passion, you cannot get far. Because whatever you want to accomplish in this life is linked to your passion, which is a science, right? So the fact is that passion is a chemical. It's a chemical in you that is activated when it discovers purpose.
Okay.
Right? It's a chemical. That's what I'm saying. It's a science, not an art. It's a chemical in you which gets activated when it discovers something you're passionate about, or something you love to do. So once you discover something that you desire to do, it excites you. It gives you energy. You can do that thing without eating, and you never know that you're hungry. Have you ever been there? I know you have been there before.
Yes, I remember during those days, during the Global Networking Summit that we organized. There was a picture I shared a couple of months ago where myself, Stylish, Chris, and we're walking at the Mecca Road. It was late, around 10 p.m. It was dark. And the mosquitoes were biting us. We hadn't eaten, we were hungry, and we're holding a few posters we had printed because we didn't have enough money. So we had to strategically place them at places that would attract people. So I can relate with that.
Yeah. On that same program, I remember having to go to Asida House to seek sponsorship from Kesben. And what happened was that I took, we had a class. We didn't have a lot of time. So I took the car town, went to Asida House, trying to get a meeting with Kesben to sponsor our program, right? And I'd forgotten that I didn't have money back.
That's passion. You didn't even consider how we went to get back to campus.
Exactly. But I went, and guess what? I had to walk from KJTia.
I remember. That's why I started laughing, because I remember very well.
Any of the audience out there has ever attempted it. But I walked from KJTia to Tech Junction. Not once, twice.
I remember.
And you know what? When I kept walking, I was consoling myself that there was traffic. Okay, these people, look at them, they're in traffic. I'm walking, I'm moving. At least I'm making headway. They are in traffic. They are stuck around. It was a lie. It was something to shift my mind from the fact that I didn't have money. And the fact that I needed, and guess what? Without having eaten, without having money, the shifting of my focus on the fact that these people are in traffic and that I am making headway by walking, I was able to walk all the way to Tech Junction.
Yeah, exactly.
I will never forget that.
And I think this is a living testimony of what you are just sharing. The science of passion is not theoretical; it's something you have lived. And I remember, Rick, remember when we're trying to sell tickets to Global Networking Summit. And I was a TA by then, so I used to go to the halls to try to sell tickets. And I remember very well, we had like 2 weeks to the program, and we're not selling any tickets. No one wanted to buy tickets. So and each time I went to the rooms, people would just send me down. So I came up with an idea to start daily Susu collection towards the tickets. So I remember I used to collect 50 pesos every day. So after work, I teach us at the business school. So I walk to the halls, go through all the halls. I had people who had expressed interest. I said, if you don't have the money, don't worry. I'll come every day for 50 pesos. In 2 weeks, you would have finished training. And and I remember very well that in 2 weeks, we filled the science auditorium, and there was an overflow. It was over 300 people bought a ticket, and I remember.
Yeah, and the ticket was selling for 15 cedis. You know, this was years back. So if you are selling a ticket to the average student, to tell you the truth, to sell 15 cedis ticket to the current student is expensive. So having sold 15 cedis ticket 10 years back, 9 years back was a real deal, right? And do you know what that taught us? What that taught us was the art of sales, which permeates every aspect of life. The art of sales, right? Influencing people to give you money for a good cause. It permeates every aspect of our lives. And if you are out there listening, if you do not learn, if you don't know how to sell, start learning how to sell. Because we learn how to sell from the scratch. As I was telling you, we had to turn architects into salesmen. Before coming here, I was chatting with Adam Yanka. Adam is a brilliant architect, but he did something he had never done before. We asked him to sell. And Prince was so hard on them, right? Those of you who don't know Prince, he was so hard on them. I remember one lady, a first class student, business student, a first class business student, cried because she was not making sales target, right? And Prince was on her so much that she folded up. And one thing that we taught these people who were our colleagues was that the art of sales was critical in business, was critical in relationship, was critical in every aspect of life. And that if you don't know how to sell, right, everybody sells something in one way or the other. And for you to be able to excel at selling, you have to be passionate at whatever. You first have to discover purpose, and the purpose has to trigger your passion.
The passion. So Rick, with this principle, I'm happy I'm sharing this. So purpose is, let's say, the first step, and then that purpose will fuel your passion towards achieving that purpose. Now, I want to link this to your recent venture. I know you are not a computer programmer, but you have been able to use this principle to start a technology startup, Cornerpal.com, that has even been recognized by the Tony Olimelu Foundation as one of the best startups in Africa. Can you share with us how you managed to apply this principle to really drive the startup?
All right. So as I told you initially, I had made a decision to either educate or to create either a product or service that somebody is using. And you know, from our background, you and I, from our background, when I was appointed as a lecturer, I could not leave my entrepreneurial background because that was where I was coming from. So I tried so many businesses, it failed. I tried Vespa, it failed. I tried Overa. I tried a lot of business ventures, it failed. But what that taught me was not to give up. And I told myself that, hey, you are young. Keep trying. Because if you are young, you don't have anything to lose, right? You can always catch up. So I kept trying. And the concept of Cornerpal came in. This is what happened. I realized that my students were on Facebook most of the time, and they were on social media, and the social media bug had bitten almost every student. And I was like, you couldn't take them away from it. You couldn't separate the student from the average student from social media. Doing that will be tantamount to destroying the student, right? You couldn't. They come to say, put off your phone, and they are hiding it somewhere, WhatsApping and all that. That's if we cannot take students away from social media, then we have to go to them with social media instead, right? So I said, what are students really looking at on social media? What are they looking at on Facebook? Are they photos, friends, messages, right? I said, okay. So if these are the three main things, the reason why they go there is check out photos, connect with their friends, and chat. What if I could create something that gives this same service, but in addition to giving this same service, students can discuss the assignment, can submit their homework, can start group work, can listen to audio, can listen to my lecture, can record their voice, and can do other things that pertains to education. What if students can do that and still have the potential or the ability to check out the photos of your friends?
Rick, I think your audio has gone off. I'm not sure what's happening. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you at this moment. So, is it possible to dial out and dial back in like you did before?
Okay, so let's see.
Yeah. So yes, we are having a very nice time with Rick. It's been really exciting because I've been part of his journey as well. So let's continue. Yes, Rick is back.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, please.
Great. So what I was saying was that I really looked at what students were attracted to, what students were looking at, right? Where their eyeballs was going. The eyeballs of students was on their phones most of the time, and it was on one of these social media platforms, either Facebook or WhatsApp. So you couldn't separate a student from their favorite social media network, right? So you have to give them social media with education. So the basic concept of Konapa, which is an edutainment website, is to give the student the social media field, and then also give them the ability to educate, to do the assignment, and to educate themselves. So that was the concept. Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, looking at, and then for me, I think this is a true testament. The fact that you're able to mobilize resources, right, and identify the competencies of other people, bringing those competencies together to achieve this, for me, is very laudable.
Yeah. How the fact is that I don't program. I'm not a computer programmer, and you know that getting programmers to work with is very hectic. Programmers are one of the most busiest people around the world. So what helped me was what you and I started when we were back on Tech Campus. The ability to work with people, the ability to share a vision and the mission, the ability to motivate people and get them to embody the vision was critical. Nobody taught us in school, but we learned it firsthand. And as a result, I managed to get somebody who I convinced, I shared the vision with. He said, wow, I think this is cool. And then I brought him in. I recruited some other guys who had the competency that I didn't have, right? And they built it. The product idea, they didn't know what to build. So I have to give rights, all right? For somebody to program, you have to write the program. You have to write it. So I have to write how the product will look like, how it will function, write everything, and then send it to him. He looks at it and then tries to program what I've written. So, natural fact, I didn't program the computer code, but I actually knew exactly how
designed the product.
Was going to function.
Exactly. Yes. And before we wrap up, because our time is almost up, there are a few comments that are coming through from Kingsley says, you guys have hustled. And then I also have my wife in the stream. Rosie says, "My people." There's another comment from Benjamin Nathan Autry. He says, "Okay." He says there's some echoing effect. Yeah,
Oh,
that's true. I
okay.
can hear the echoes as well. And Kingsley says, "Entrepreneurs and failures, and yet is you." Yeah, it says inspiring revelations. So, Rick, there's one last bit that I want you to touch on before we wrap up.
Yeah.
I know that you are also an author. You write, and I was part of your team initially with the Power to Become. Can you explain to us or share with us the books that you have written or published so far, and how first of all, what is the motivation behind those books, and how can people get copies of the book?
Okay, so I wrote my first book, which is The Power to Become. This is it. Right?
Oh, nice. Please, bring it to the camera so that we see it. Yes, The Power to Become.
Yes, that's my first book. I wrote this book. There's a story to everything, right? I wrote this book. I started writing when I was 19 years old. I continued when I was 20. And after I finished writing the book, the next thing was I was not known as an author, and I didn't have money to publish. And so I had to send my manuscript around for publishers to really read it and then invest or publish it for me. And I want to thank Percy Corsa.
Yes, I remember Percy.
Yeah, I want to thank Percy Corsa, who took the risk on me, who was not known as an author, a very young person, wasn't known, and he took the risk to invest in the Power to Become, and that what made it possible for me to publish the book. And everything about this book, it talks about innovation, right? So what I did was I decided to take a risk designing the book, right? So the cover was designed uniquely, and this is the only book that has a different font color, right? Because I went to the printers and I told them, hey, I know every book that is written has a black font color. I want to do something crazy. Can we mix the colors, right? So the guy said, I haven't done this before, but I'll give it a try. So he mixed the colors and gave it a light sea blue color, right?
Yes, so, remember.
So my book is the only book probably in this country which has a unique font color, and people see the font color and they say this book is different, right? And people think I printed it outside, but it was right here in Ghana. And so it's a powerful book. It's one thing that made me see that this book is an asset was one day I received a call from somebody I do not know who has read this book. And she told me, please, are you recording? I said, yes. I said, thank you so much. You saved my life. I said, how? And she said, I picked this book and I read it. I was about committing suicide. And after reading it, I changed my mind. And since then, Prince, can you imagine that when I take my own book to read, I get inspired?
Yeah.
When I take my own book to read, I get inspired. And so that is The Power to Become. The Power to Become is on Amazon, but it's also, you can buy it directly and cheaper. Once you go to, you can just go to either my Facebook page, send me sort of a message, or my Instagram page, DM me, or send you a direct link so that you can download for a very small donation The Power to Become right onto your phone, onto your laptop. Anyway, so that's The Power to Become. If you want a copy, just DM me in my Facebook feed or my Instagram page. Go to my Instagram page at Rick Autry, Facebook at Rick Autry. Just DM me and I'll send you the link directly and you can get a copy. My second book, which is the latest book on the blog, is Take Action Now, right? Take Action Now.
Oh,
So
can you
that is
show? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
so take action
Nice.
now. I wanted this book to get a lot of people to take action on their dreams. You know, I realized that a lot of people have dreams and aspirations, and a lot of intellectuals do a lot of research. But I believe that if just 1% of intellectuals, people who are like lecturers who have higher education, if only 1% could put their knowledge to use, we could change the world. So this book goes to address that, how to push people like you and I who have learned so much, all right, to try to implement what they have learned so that it can benefit the world. So Take Action Now is a book that pushes you to go right at your dreams and make it happen. All right. So the same way, if you want copy of Take Action Now, just DM me, Rick Autry on Facebook, Rick Autry on Instagram, and I'll send you the link to get this book right now. All right. So those are the two books that I have right now.
Thank you, Rick. I think if you are watching us and you want to send a question or a comment, please feel free to do so. We have just 2 minutes to wrap up. So if you have a question or a comment, please send it through. Now, Rick, what will be your final words for my viewers or the viewers who are watching us, especially the person who's at the point where they are trying to discover their purpose? You mentioned that purpose is the ultimate, and then that is fueled by passion. Now, let's say a viewer is at the point where they are trying to discover their purpose in order to have this passion towards this purpose. And what would be your final words for such a person, right? What would help them discover their purpose and move them towards building a passion for that purpose?
Yeah, so thank you very much for this opportunity. What I would say is that I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and I believe that God has given everybody a purpose on this earth. And God has given everybody a particular gift or giftings to be able to offer, right? You come into this world with a gift. The what God gives you is for you to discover that gift. But unfortunately, most people do not discover it until they leave this world, right? So what I would advise anybody listening is work on discovering the gift that God has given you. I always say a job is a temporary engagement awaiting the discovery of your true purpose.
Can you repeat that? I like that.
A job is a temporary engagement, all right, awaiting the discovery of your true purpose.
Wow.
So what that means is that whatever job you think you are doing, right, it's just a temporary thing. It's not for you. It is something temporary to put something on the table for your family and to help you discover exactly what God has given you, right? And to tell you what, whatever job you are on, you retire from.
Yeah.
But you do not ever retire on your gifting, on your talent. The word retirement is not biblical. It's not in the Bible. There is nowhere the patriarchs of the Bible got retired. The word retirement is a scheme by man to make sure that younger people get into the system, older people exit. But the fact is that it is for you to discover your purpose and to exit from your job and to fill that purpose.
That purpose.
So job is just temporary. So what I would tell viewers and listeners out there, your job is temporary. Use the time you're working on a job to discover your talent and your gifting. And when the talent and gifting has been discovered, immerse yourself in developing it. And then you will never have to work again, or you never have to job again for the rest of your life. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rick, on this. There's one question, and then we wrap up. The last question from Benjamin and Nathan Autry. He says, Rick, what would be your advice for young folks who are about ready to pay the price for success, but who are not ready to pay the price for success, but want to get success quickly? So young people who don't want to pay the price for success, but want it quickly anyways. What would be your advice?
Read my lips. They end up in jail. They end up in jail. That's what it means.
Yeah.
If you're a young person out there who wants quick fix or quick fixes, who doesn't want to pay the price, you only end up in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you only end up destroying your reputation. So what I want to say is that success demands hard work, right? And you got to pay the price. You got to pay the price because you need the experience to be able to excel out there. To tell you what, Prince and I have gone through a lot. What has kept us over the period was because, do you remember at one point we had to eat kinky at the roadside?
I remember that, yeah,
yes.
That place with a gutter and mosquitoes and that smell. I remember.
These experiences never leave you.
Yeah.
These experiences never leave you. They stay with you. And these are the experiences you need to have to be able to stay humble. Right? To stay humble and to be able to focus on your vision and your dream. Because if you don't have the humility, you can't get far. So that's my advice. Don't look for a quick fix. Go through the process, learn from the people who have gotten out there, who have made it. Humble yourself enough to learn. Discover your purpose. Use your giftings. And then push yourself to make yourself useful to humanity. That is it.
Thank you so much, Rick, for your time. I know you're a very, very busy person, and I really appreciate your time and your really words of wisdom and sharing your life actually with us. And thank you, viewers, for joining us for today's episode of People Who Inspire. I really appreciate your time as well and joining us. Next week, I'll come your way again with another episode, another exciting episode, and keep being awesome. And just as Rick said, discover your purpose, fuel that purpose with passion, and really use the giftings that you have. And I'm sure that we'll meet at the top someday. Thank you, Rick, and enjoy the rest of the week.
Great
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.